guys ready for ASMR Friday? I have everything ready. I got my tea. I got the book. Got the microphone set correctly. Voice set correctly. I still didn't get an answer from Lechi if they got back from Japan yet. I assume they're busy and are working. Lechi, if you hear me, make sure that you take care of yourself if you just got back from the jet lag. Other than that, you guys, we are doing a book reading, if you are new here. We are doing Warriors, the cat series, book 2, Fire and Ice, chapter 16 through 20. I think it's about 40 pages today. It's a little bit short. Let's see. Just exactly how many are after that. So if I do next week, how many pages is that? This is the 26, so that's far. Where's 25 at? I'm just trying to see ahead and see like how many pages I have to go. So between chapter 20 and 25, it seems like there's also a small amount of some pages here. So it's between 255 and 290. So they're about the same length. So this week and next week are going to be relatively the same from what I am seeing. But yeah. So it shouldn't be too long. If we get some people talking to me, then it might become longer. I actually had one of the longest chapters I was reading, and that was like one of the busiest times. I think that was chapter 6 through 10. Ended up being super long in this book. And chapters, I think 25 through 30 are going to be relatively long too. Might be the longest section in this book. So last stream, we ended up having a lot of setup for the betrayal of Tiger Claw and everything else. So we're gonna see if that happens in this next 5 chapters, or if maybe there's a little bit more tension being drawn. I'm going to assume, since there is about 15 chapters left to this book, that it's gonna have more tension and that we're gonna see a lot more happen in the last 10 chapters. But we will get to see a lot more interaction in these 5 chapters compared to the last 5, I believe. Because the last 5 are mostly set up, and the 5 before that was a little bit more intriguing because we had our Fireheart and his buddy go and get the Wind Clan and bring them back. After that was a little bit of setup and some information gathering about what happens during the cold season and what's happening to the other clans a bit, like a little bit of information here and there. How River Clan can't get all their fish that they used to be able to, and how Shadow Clan, you know, their forest kind of got cut down, so they eventually just did not have any space themselves, and that's why they want to battle Wind Clan. So we got to see a little bit more background of the clans and information on that. So we're gonna see how today's 5 chapters go. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the book, and we're going to start with chapter 16. Here we go. The rain continued through the night into the next morning. But by sun-high, the clouds began to clear. A somber air hung over the clearing as the clan waited for news of their leader. Fireheart crept out from a patch of brambles by the boundary wall. You're in a hotel right now doing art? Oh. You must be like pretty close to going home. I hope you're enjoying your art. Where he'd sheltered since dawn, he padded over to Blue Star's den in the side of the high rock. There was no sound from inside. As he turned away, he ran into Willowpelt, carrying food to the nursery. She tipped her head questioningly to one side. Fireheart knew she was hoping for news of Blue Star. Nothing to report, I'm afraid, he shrugged. Fireheart had given Cinderpaw and Brackenpaw a day's rest from training. You could see them now, lounging outside their den, looking bored. Fireheart knew he had to let them down. Still have 2 weeks here, but I'll give you more details, Indians. What? I thought you were only there for a week. That's news to me. Spending a whole month there? That's crazy. At least it's relatively cheap compared to other places to visit if you go to the right places. I actually really like how Japan has things set up because they can actually use recycling as a means to earn their money for the day of being able to stay at like a net cafe and be able to sleep there. So they don't really, I don't believe, have much of a homeless problem as we do in America. Had a week in Japan, but 2 weeks in Vietnam. Oh, I see. You switched. Okay, so it's like, it's almost like a tour. Alright. I get it, I get it. But he wanted to stay in camp while Blue Star was sick. At least Tiger Claw wasn't here to criticize his decision. The great deputy had taken out the dawn patrol. Suddenly, the lichen at Blue Star's den twitched and Frostfur burst through. She raced across the clearing to Yellowfang's den and reappeared within moments with the medicine cat behind her. Fireheart bounded over to Blue Star's den, just as Frostfur and Yellowfang pushed through the hanging lichen. He stopped outside and sat down, his heart racing. Frostfur peered out. "What's wrong?" Fireheart asked, his voice trembling. Frostfur closed her eyes. "She has green cough," she told him bleakly. "Stand, watch, and make sure no one comes in." She ducked back inside. Fireheart sat motionless as shock flooded through him. Green cough. Blue Star really was in danger of losing another life. A sharp yowl outside the camp made him turn and look towards the gorse tunnel. Dustpaw exploded into the clearing and skidded to a halt beside Fireheart. "I've come from Tiger Claw," he panted. "I have a message for Blue Star." "She's sick," Fireheart replied. "You can't go in." Dustpaw flicked his tail impatiently. "Tiger Claw needs to see her at the Thunderpath. It's very urgent." "What's wrong?" Dustpaw glared at him. Tiger Claw asked for Blue Star, he sneered. Not some kitty pet pretending to be a warrior. Fury shot through Fireheart, and he unsheathed his claws. "Blue Star can't leave the camp," he growled. He flattened his ears and moved so that he blocked the entrance to his leader's den. Fireheart is right. Yellowfang's rough meow sounded behind him. She had come out to Blue Star's den. Dustpaw looked at the medicine cat, shrinking beneath her orange gaze. "Tiger Claw has found evidence of Shadow Clan warriors in our territory," he meowed. "They've invaded our hunting grounds." In spite of his fear for Blue Star, Fireheart felt his lip curl in anger. How dare they, after what ThunderClan had done for them? But Yellowfang wasn't interested in Dustpaw's report. She turned to Fireheart, her eyes filled with urgency. "Fireheart," she meowed, "tell me, do you know whether there is any catnip in the Two Lake Place. Hello, welcome in. We are currently reading Warriors Book 2. If you do not know what that is, it is the Cat series, and this is Fire and Ice. We are currently on chapter 16, and we are reading chapter 16 through 20 today. Today is the only day I do ASMR, so it is an ASMR Friday. And I am Mabusuki, the Kitsune Gamer. Please enjoy your stay. Catnip, Fireheart echoed. I need it for Blue Star, Yellowfang explained. It's a herb I haven't used for moons, but I think it will help her. The medicine cat had Fireheart's full attention now. She continued, it has soft leaves and an irresistible scent. Fireheart interrupted her. Yes, I know where to find some. He had never seen it in the woods, but as a kid, he had rolled in a patch in his two-leg home. Good, replied Yellowfang. I need as much as he can carry, and fast. What about Tigerclaw? Demanded Dustpaw. Tigerclaw will have to deal with it on his own for the moment, Yellowfang snapped. Cinderpaw had been watching them from the tree stump. She bounded up. Deal with what himself? She mewed excitedly. Fireheart signaled her to be quiet with an urgent flick of his tail. Dustpaw ignored the apprentice. ShadowClan could be in our territory by now, he hissed. Cinderpaw's eyes widened, but she held her tongue. Yellowfang paused to think. Where's Whitestorm? She asked. Patrolling Sunning Rocks with Sandpaw and Nosfer, Dustpaw answered. Yellowfang nodded. With Blue Star sick and Fireheart fetching catnip, we can't risk sending warriors out camp. If ShadowClan is in our territory, they might attack here. They've done it before. She reminded him grimly. If I'm quick getting the catnip, Fireheart put in. I could meet Tigerclaw afterwards and bring back his message for Blue Star. Dustpaw's eyes flashed, but he wants Blue Star to see the evidence for herself. ShadowClan has left the remains of Fresh Kill on our side of the Thunderpath. Yellowfang silenced him with a growl. Blue Star doesn't need to see the evidence, she rasped. The word of her deputy ought to be enough. Tigerclaw just needs to be told that Blue Star can't come, meowed Fireheart. I'll take the message to him after I fetch the catnip. Where is he? I'll go, Dustpaw spat. You think you're a better messenger than me because you're a warrior and I'm just an apprentice? He threw Fireheart a look of pure hatred. But Yellowfang had no time for quarrels. The clan will need protecting while Fireheart is gone. She hissed at Dustpaw, flattening her ears. Isn't that duty important enough for you? Now where's Tigerclaw? Beside the burned ash tree that overhangs the Thunderpath, Dustpaw replied sulkily. Right, Yellowfang growled. Go now, Fireheart, quickly. As Fireheart sped away across the clearing, he heard small paw steps sprinting after him. Fireheart, wait! Go back to your den, Cinderpaw, he meowed over his shoulder without slowing down. But I could go and give Tigerclaw the message while you get the catnip. Fireheart stopped in his tracks and turned to face his young apprentice. Cinderpaw, if there are any ShadowClan warriors around, you need to stay in camp. Cinderpaw looked crushed, but Fireheart didn't have time to worry about her feelings. Go back to your den, he growled. Without waiting to see her reaction, he turned and charged out of the camp. He raced through the tall pines and weaved quickly through the undergrowth that backed on to Two Lake Place. As he scrambled the fence that bordered his old home, the familiar smell of the garden filled his nostrils. Memories flooded his mind, making him dizzy for a moment. thought of sunny afternoons playing in the garden with his toys his two legs held for him. He almost expected to hear them rattling his dinner and calling his kitty pet name. Fireheart leaped down into the garden and bounded across the lawn to the place he remembered the catnip had grown. He inhaled deeply, his mouth open, and breathed out with relief. The enticing scent was still here somewhere. Fireheart padded along the row of plants, sniffing the air. He couldn't see the catnip, and all the time he was getting nearer and nearer to his old two-leg nest. Fireheart's steps grew slower. Sense of his kithood mingled with the catnip now, confusing him. Fireheart shook his head to clear it and concentrated on the catnip scent. He pushed his way under a large bush, still dripping from the overnight rain, and found a large patch of soft, fragrant herb. The recent frost had killed some of the leaves, but the sheltering bush had protected enough for Yellowfang to use. Fireheart bit off as many leaves as he could carry. Their flavor seeped deliciously into his mouth, but he was careful not to chew, much as he wanted to. Bluestar would need every drop of their precious juice. With his jaws full, he turned and raced back up the garden. He leaped over the fence and pelted back through the forest, ignoring the brambles that dragged at his coat. He felt as if his lungs would burst. With his jaws closed on the herbs, he could breathe only through his nose. Yellowfang was waiting for him in the gorse tunnel. Fireheart dropped the catnip at her paws and took a long gulp of air, his sides heaving. With a grateful look, Yellowfang picked up the leaves and rushed away to Bluestar's den. He sat gasping for air. Fireheart realized he could smell Cinderpaw's excited scent in the gorse tunnel. He sniffed the ground around him. Had Cinderpaw left the camp even after he'd warned her about ShadowClan warriors? Fireheart dashed to the apprentice's den and stuck his head inside. Brackenpaw was alone, sleeping. "Where's Cinderpaw?" Fireheart meowed. Brackenpaw lifted his head sleepily. What? "Cinderpaw, where is she?" "Don't know," answered Brackenpaw, confused. Fireheart withdrew his head and looked around the clearing. Frostfur was pacing outside Bluestar's den, her coat ruffled with agitation. Fireheart wondered what to do. He didn't have time to find Cinderpaw himself, and he didn't want to tell the other warriors that she was missing. Graystripe, he thought suddenly. Graystripe could look for her while he went to find Tigerclaw. Fireheart hurried to the warrior's den and slipped inside. Graystripe's nest was empty.
When I started Walton Goggins Goggle Glasses...
Sorry about that. Give me a second. I hate when it does that. You know, sometimes the channels like random ads, even though they're not supposed to technically have them. So I just gotta quiet it for a second, skip it, and then like turn it back on. That probably spooked you. Now I have to find my place, goddammit. Ah, there we are. Graystripe's nest was empty. A flash of anger shot through Fireheart. Where was his friend when he needed him? As if he couldn't guess. Fireheart snorted crossly. Cinderpaw would have to fend for herself until he had found Tigerclaw and told him Bluestar was sick. Fireheart raced began the journey to the Thunder Path. As he followed the trail up the side of the ravine and into the woods, he was aware that Cinderpaw's scent hung in the air. She must have come this way, of course. She had gone to meet Tiger Claw herself. The fur on Fireheart's spine prickled with worry and frustration. How could she be so foolish? As he skirted the snake rocks, Fireheart began to smell the Thunder Path and hear the roar of its monsters. Suddenly, a shrill, high-pitched squeal sounded from the edge of the trees. Fireheart could only... I lost my place on the page for a second. What a great start to the stream. Not me accidentally losing my place. I guess that's ADHD for you. Fireheart felt the blood run in his veins. It was the same cry he had heard. Oh, I skipped a little bit. There it is. As he skirted the snake rocks, Fireheart began to smell the Thunder Path and hear the roar of its monsters. Suddenly, a shrill, high-pitched squeal sounded from the edge of the trees. Fireheart felt the blood run cold in his veins. It was the same cry he had heard in his dream. He raced out of the trees and skidded to a halt on the grass border beside the Thunder Path. He looked desperately up and down the verge and spotted an ash tree, charred by lightning. That must be the place where Dustpaw had said Tiger Claw wanted to meet Bluestar. But the deputy was still some way in the distance, padding calmly towards the ash. Fireheart broke into a run. The verge was very narrow here, with scarcely any room for a rabbit. But Fireheart crept up and kept going. He called out to Tiger Claw as he ran. Did you hear that cry? But the roar of an approaching monster drowned out his words. Fireheart shuddered as it passed, waiting for a noise to die away so he could call out again to Tiger Claw. Then he noticed something beneath the ash, a dark shape on the thin strip of grass. With a sickening jolt, he recognized a small body lying motionless beside the Thunder Path. It was Cinderpaw. That was the end of chapter 16. So, currently we do not know if Cinderpaw is okay, or if Cinderpaw has passed, and I suppose we will find out in chapter 17. Chapter 17. Fireheart stared in horror. Ahead of him, Tiger Claw had reached the limp body and stood looking down at it. His massive shoulders rigid with shock. Fireheart forced himself nearer. Tentatively, he stretched his head forwards and sniffed Cinderpaw's flank. She smelled of Thunder Path. One of her hind legs was twisted and glistening with blood. Fireheart was trembling so much he could hardly stand, and he saw her side moving. She was still breathing. Speechless with relief, he looked up at Tiger Claw. She's alive, the deputy growled. He fixed his amber stare on Fireheart. What was she doing here? Oh. Hello. I am actually already sitting up straight, but thank you for the posture check. You silly. She came to find you, Fireheart whispered. You mean you sent her here? Fireheart's eyes widened with surprise. Did Tiger Claw think you'd be so stupid? I told her to stay in the camp. He protested. She came by herself. Because I couldn't make her listen to me, he realized with dismay. Tiger Claw snorted. You must get her home. The music is eclipsing my... Okay, hang on, let me turn it down. Thank you for saying something. Okay. Well, I don't know what it is with Twitch and OBS, but sometimes it forces the music on the browser to be louder than it actually is. So sometimes I need a little bit of a heads up from other people. I don't know why OBS and Twitch react that way to each other. It might be because I'm using Streamlabs, but it tends to happen sometimes. It just really enjoys messing with me. Tigerclaw snorted. Must get her home. He bent down with his mouth open, reaching for the small, crumpled body. But Fireheart dipped his head and picked up the apprentice by the scruff of her neck before Tigerclaw could touch her. He began to drag Cinderpaw into the woods as gently as he could, her body hanging limply between his front paws. Let me know if it's too quiet now as well. I did turn it down quite far. Darkstripe came bounding up to them. I've checked Snake Rocks again, Tigerclaw. There's no sign of Shadow. He broke off when he saw Cinderpaw dangling from Fireheart's mouth. What happened? Fireheart didn't wait to hear Tigerclaw's answer. He stumbled away through the trees with his precious burden. He could have prevented this accident if only he'd made Cinderpaw listen to him. If only he'd been a better mentor. Now her body was damaged and bleeding, and she made no sound as she dangled from his jaws. Her hind paws scored a shallow trail through the leaves as carefully Fireheart carried her home. The real interesting question is, how did her body get so far away from the Thunder Path? That's my question. Also, there is going to be ads in 2 minutes, so please turn down your volume if you have not already. The ASMR stream is usually more quiet than ads on Twitch, so don't get yourself spooked. Yellowfang was not in her clearing. The two kits with White Cough were curled together in their shelter, fast asleep. Fireheart laid Cinderpaw on the cold ground and made a nest for her in the bracken by circling around and around. When he had finished, he grasped Cinderpaw's scruff and gently pulled her inside. Fireheart? Yellowfang meowed from the clearing. Tigerclaw must have told her about Cinderpaw. Fireheart hopped out of the nest. She's in here, he croaked, feeling weak with relief at seeing the medicine cat. Let me look, Yellowfang ordered. She brushed past Fireheart and climbed into the bracken to examine Cinderpaw. Fireheart sat down and waited. At last, Yellowfang jumped out. She's hurt very badly, she meowed, her eyes dark with concern, but I think I might be able to save her. There was a tiny hope, like a single sparkling dewdrop clinging to his pelt. Fireheart felt it glisten for a moment before Yellowfang went on. I can't promise anything. She looked deep into Fireheart's eyes and murmured, Bluestar is very sick, and I can do no more for her. StarClan must decide her fate now. Fireheart felt his eyes cloud with emotion. He could hardly see Yellowfang's face, but he heard her speak to him again, her voice gentle. Go and sit with Bluestar, she meowed. She's asking for you earlier. I'll take care of Cinderpaw. So, we should be in ads now. I'm gonna go ahead and take a very quick break. So, give me a second and I will get the BRB. Sorry, I had to like stretch real quick. Alright, continuing where I left off. Fireheart nodded blindly and turned away. Bluestar had been his mentor, and more than that, there had been a bond between them since their first meeting. But he felt torn. He should be with Cinderpaw, too. A shadow loomed at the far end of the fern tunnel. Tigerclaw was sitting at the entrance to Yellowfang's den, his head held high as usual. Fireheart's shoulders stiffened with anger. Why couldn't the great warrior show some sign of sorrow? After all, Cinderpaw had come looking for him, and for what? There hadn't been any evidence of ShadowClan fresh kill that Fireheart had noticed. He walked past Tigerclaw without a word and headed across the clearing towards Bluestar's den. Longtail was sitting on guard outside. He glanced sideways but didn't try to stop Fireheart as the young warrior pushed through the lichen. Goldenflower, one of the queens, was inside. Fireheart could see her eyes shining in the gloom, and the pale fur of Bluestar lying curled in her nest. Goldenflower leaned forwards and gently licked Bluestar's head to cool it, like a mother nursing her kid. Fireheart's heart ached as he thought of Cinderpaw. Would Frostfur be at her daughter's side by now? Yellowfang has given her catnip and feverfew, Goldenflower murmured to Fireheart. We can only watch and wait now. She got to her paws and touched Fireheart's nose with her muzzle. Will you be okay to sit with her? She asked gently. Fireheart nodded, and Goldenflower padded softly out of the den. Fireheart lowered himself onto his belly, stretching his forepaws in front of him so that they just touched the leader's face. He lay very still, his eyes fixed on Bluestar's limp body. She didn't even have enough strength to cough now. Fireheart could hear her breathing in the darkness, shallow and rasping, and he listened to the faltering rhythm as the night slowly passed. Her breathing stopped just before dawn. Fireheart had almost dozed off when he realized the cave was silent. There was no noise from the camp outside either, just a deathly hush, as if the whole clan were holding its breath. Bluestar was completely still. Fireheart knew she was with StarClan, preparing for her remaining life. He had watched Bluestar lose a life before. He felt his fur prickle at the eerie peace that seemed to enfold her body, but there was nothing he could do, so he waited. Suddenly, Bluestar gasped. Fireheart, is that you? She meowed in a croaky voice. Yes, Bluestar, Fireheart murmured. I'm here. I have lost another life. Bluestar's voice was weak, but the relief made Fireheart want to reach forwards and lick her between the ears. As Goldenflower had done, when I lose this one, I would not be able to return. Fireheart swallowed hard. The thought of the clan losing its great leader pained him, but the thought of losing his mentor and friend hurt even more. How do you feel? Shall I fetch Yellowfang? Bluestar shook her head slowly. The fever has gone. I am well enough. I just need to rest. Very well, meowed Fireheart. Light was beginning to filter through the lichen, and his head swam from his wakeful night. You must be tired, meowed Bluestar. Go and get some sleep. Yes, Fireheart heaved himself up. His legs felt stiff from lying so long. Is there anything you need? No. Just tell Yellowfang what has happened, answered Bluestar. Thank you for sitting with me. Fireheart tried to purr, but it caught in his throat. There would be time for more words later. He pushed his way out through the lichen. Outside, a harsh brightness made him blink. It had snowed in the night. Fireheart stared in amazement. He had never seen snow before. His two-leg owners had kept him shut inside, and he was a very young kid whenever it was cold. But he'd heard the clan elders talk about it. He nodded to Darkstripe, who had replaced Longtail guarding Bluestar's den, and stepped into the strange powder. It felt wet and cold, crunching loudly under his paws. Tigerclaw was standing in the clearing. It was still snowing, and the flakes settled onto the tabby's thick fur without melting. Fireheart could hear him giving orders for the nursery wall to be padded with leaves to keep out the cold. Then I want a hole to be scraped out where we can store prey. ThunderClan Deputy instructed. Use snow to line it and cover it with more snow once it's been filled. We may as well make use of the snow while it's here. Warriors raced around Tigerclaw, following his orders. Mousefur, Longtail, organize some hunting parties. We need as much fresh kill as we can get before the prey take to their burrows for good. Tigerclaw spotted Fireheart, padding across the clearing. Fireheart, wait, he called. Oh, I suppose you'll have to rest. I can't imagine you'll be any use on a hunting party this morning. Fireheart stared at the dark warrior, hostility rising like a bile in his throat. I'm going to see Cinderpaw first, he growled. Tigerclaw held his gaze for a moment. How's Bluestar? Mistrust ruffled Fireheart's fur like a cold breeze. He'd heard Bluestar lie to Tigerclaw once before about how many lives she had left. I'm no medicine cat, he answered. I can't say. Tigerclaw snorted impatiently, then turned away and went back to giving orders. Fireheart walked over to Yellowfang's den, relieved to escape the frantic bustle of the camp. Oh, hi! Welcome back! I see you made it for the ASMR Friday. We are currently on the second chapter, so we are in chapter 17. Doing 16 through 20 today. His heart began to pound as he wondered what state he would find Cinderpaw in. So, a little bit that you missed from the stream compared to the previous ASMR one is that Bluestar had lost one of her lives. So the leaders of the clans all have, like, you know, the multiple lives. And so Bluestar is actually on her last life now. But the only one that knows that is Fireheart. Ayo, giving me hugs. Yellowfang, he called. Hush. Yellowfang sprang from Cinderpaw's bracken nest. She's sleeping at last. She's had a hard night. I couldn't give her poppy seeds to ease the pain until she'd recovered from the shock. But she's going to live? Fireheart's legs felt wobbly with relief. I can't be for sure. For a few days, she's hurt inside, and one of her hind legs is badly broken. How's it going? It's going well. Is your night going okay? But it'll mend, won't it? Fireheart pleaded desperately. She'll be training again by New Leaf? Yellowfang shook her head, her orange eyes sympathetic. whatever happens, Cinderpaw will never be a warrior now. Fireheart's head spun. He was dizzy with the lack of sleep, and this devastating news sapped the last of his energy. Couldn't find sleep, so you started scrolling on your PC. Yeah, that figures. You and your insomnia. Hopefully you can get some sleep soon. Have you ever tried sleepy time tea? I wonder if you've ever done that, and also if you do a blue light filter, it will help you sleep more. I guess that doesn't help since my background's pretty blue. Cinderpaw had been entrusted to him for her warrior training. Memories of the naming ceremony pricked like cruel thorns. Cinderpaw's excitement, Frostfur's motherly pride. Does Frostfur know? He meowed, feeling hollow. Yes, she was here till dawn. She's back in the nursery now. There are other kits to tend to. I'll ask one of the elders to sit with Cinderpaw. She needs to be kept warm. I can do that. Fireheart padded over to the nest where Cinderpaw was sleeping and looked inside. She squirmed, and her blood-smeared sides heaved, as though she were fighting a battle as she slept. Haven't tried sleepy time tea. You have blue light filter on all your devices. Well, that's good. So you should definitely try the sleepy time tea though, because the sleepy time tea is meant to help you actually go to bed. So doing that and also taking some melatonin may help you. If you have allergies, then you could also take Benadryl, and that shit makes you tired. But if you don't have allergies, don't even try, I guess. No reason to take medicine just to fall asleep. Not sure where to find the sleepy time tea. Oh, you can find it at any Walmart. You just go to the coffee/tea section, and it should be there, and it will literally say sleepy time tea on it. You could also drink lavender tea, because lavender has a calming effect, which will also help you sleep. So there's different types of teas that you could try, but they're technically both the vitamins and also the aroma can help you sleep. Don't think we have Walmart. You don't have Walmart? Any convenience store then maybe? If you cannot get it at a convenience store, then most likely Amazon. Because Amazon has anything and everything, and usually it's cheaper than the stores. So if all else fails, you can try that. Yellowfang gently nudged Fireheart with her nose. You need to get some sleep, she asked. Leave Cinderpaw to me. You live in Scotland and you don't have Walmart. Oh. Well, I don't know. I mean, there are some other countries that Walmart exists in, like fucking Japan. Japan has everything. You should see how many Kit Kat flavors are in Japan. It's crazy over there. Fireheart stayed where he was. Bluestar lost another life, he burst out. Yellowfang blinked for a moment, then lifted her head to StarClan. She didn't utter a word, but Fireheart could see the anguish in her orange eyes. You know, don't you? He murmured. Okay. Yeah, definitely try the sleepy time tea. And if you cannot find any in your area, or like if it doesn't like ship soon, you can also try lavender. You could also, if you're into the aromatherapy section of it, you can actually get a small diffuser, and it has like essential oils, and you could actually do that. You could also get a water bottle, spray bottle, and you could also put some lavender in that and like have a mist and like spray that on your pillows. You could try that too. Lavender is supposed to have a really calming effect on your mind. Yellowfang lowered her chin and gazed into Fireheart's eyes. This is Bluestar's final life? Yes, I know. A medicine cat can tell these things. Would the rest of the clan be able to tell as well? Fireheart asked, thinking of Tiger Claw. Yellowfang narrowed her eyes. No. She would be no weaker in this life than she was in any of her others. Fireheart blinked gratefully at her. Now, Yellowfang ordered, do you want some poppy seeds to help you sleep? Fireheart shook his head. Part of him longed for the deep, easy sleep they would bring. But if Tiger Claw was right, and Shadow Clan really was about to attack Thunder Clan's borders, he did not want to dull his senses. He might be needed to defend the camp. Mini sleep time. Yeah. I kind of just know a lot. Like, I read a lot, and I have, family. My mom is big time into like vitamins and stuff like that, so I learn a lot of that from her. Like earlier today I took magnesium and even had gummies because I was over at her house, and she's like, here, take this. And considering I have a lot of vitamin deficiencies because of my habit of what I eat, which is essentially, the college diet, which I'm not even in college anymore. I've graduated like since a long time ago, but it kind of lacks a lot of vitamins. So I just take them anytime she offers them. But yeah, sleepy time tea, lavender tea, stuff like that will help you sleep. I mean, if you have any questions, like for anything involving vitamins or involving health in general, I know quite a bit simply from reading. I am no expert though, so you can't quote me, but I do a lot of reading. Graystripe was back in the warrior's den. Fireheart did not speak to him. His rage at finding him missing the night before lingered like a dull bruise. He padded silently to his nest, circled once, and settled down to wash. Graystripe looked up, but back then he sounded edgy, as if he wanted to say no more. Fireheart stopped licking his forepaw and stared at Graystripe. You tried to warn Silverstream off, Graystripe hissed furiously. Willowpelt, who was dozing on the other side of the den, opened one eye and then closed it again. Graystripe lowered his voice. Stay out of it, will you? He spat. I'm going to keep on seeing her, whatever you do or say. Fireheart snorted and flashed a resentful glance at his friend. His talk with Silverstream seemed so long ago, he'd almost forgotten it. But he hadn't forgotten that Graystripe had been missing, and he'd needed help finding Cinderpaw. He laid his head angrily on his muddy forepaws and closed his eyes. Cinderpaw was battling her injuries, and Bluestar was on her 9th life. As far as Fireheart was concerned, Graystripe could do what he liked. That is the end of chapter 17. And now you are seeing that there's some tension building here. And you can probably see that Fireheart's going to end up having a lot of obstacles when it comes to trying to help his clan out. Chapter 18. Graystripe had already left his nest when Fireheart awoke the next day. You could tell it was sun-high by the light that glowed through the branches. He rose, his body still weary with grief, and pushed his head out of the den. Snow must have been falling all morning, for it lay thick on the ground it had drifted against the den. Fireheart found himself gazing out over a white wall that was as high as his shoulder. The usual bustle of the camp seemed muted. Fireheart could see Willowpelt and Halftail whispering on the far side of the clearing. Mousefur was picking her way laboriously towards the store of fresh kill, a rabbit dangling from her jaws. She stopped and sneezed and carried on. Fireheart lifted one paw and rested it on the top of the snow. It felt hard at first, but when he pressed down, the thin covering of ice cracked, and he gasped as his leg plunged into the drift. Fireheart snorted as he found himself up to his muzzle in snow, shaking his head and lifting his chin. He leaped forwards, only to sink into more deep snow. There is going to be an ad in 2 minutes. Please turn down your volume if you have not already. Don't get spooked by the ads. He struggled on, alarm rising in his chest. He felt as if he were drowning in snow. And all of a sudden, there was a solid ground under his paws. He had reached the edge of the clearing. The snow here was only mouse-length deep, and Fireheart sat down with a soft crunch, relieved. He tensed when he saw Graystripe plowing through the snow towards him. The gray warrior seemed unbothered by it, protected from its damp chill by his thick pelt. His face was shadowed with sorrow. "Have you heard about Bluestar?" he asked as he neared. "She lost a life to Greencough." Fireheart flicked his ears impatiently. He could have told his friend that last night. "I know," he snapped. "I was with her." "Why didn't you tell me?" mewed Graystripe, shocked. "You weren't exactly in a friendly mood last night, if you remember. Anyway, if you weren't always off breaking the warrior code, you might know what was going on in your own clan," he snarled. Graystripe's ears twitched uncomfortably. "I've just been to see Cinderpaw," he meowed. "I'm sorry she's so sick." "How is she?" "She looked bad, but Yellowfang said she's pulling through," replied Graystripe. Fireheart stared anxiously across the clearing and stood up. He wanted to see his apprentice for himself. Graystripe meowed. "She's asleep now. Frostfur's with her, and Yellowfang doesn't want anyone else disturbing her." Fireheart flinched involuntarily. How was he going to tell Frostfur that it was his fault that Cinderpaw went to the Thunderpath? Instinctively, Fireheart turned to Graystripe, seeking reassurance. But Graystripe was trudging across the snowy clearing towards the nursery. Off to see Silverstream, Fireheart guessed resentfully, sheathing and unsheathing his claws as he watched his friend disappear from sight. Fireheart noticed Speckletail, the oldest queen from the nursery and the mother of the kit with Whitecough, only when she stopped right in front of him. "Is Tiger Claw inside?" she asked, pointing with her nose to the warrior's den. Fireheart shook his head. Speckletail mewed. "There's Greencough in the nursery. 2 of Brindleface's kits are sick." "Greencough," Fireheart gasped, shaken from his anger. "Will they die?" "They might, but Leaf Bear always brings Greencough." Speckletail pointed out gently. Surely there's something we can do. Fireheart protested. Yellowfang will do what she can, answered Speckletail. But in the end, it's up to StarClan. A new flash of fury flared in Fireheart's belly as Speckletail turned away and padded back to the nursery. How could the clan tolerate these tragedies? He felt overwhelmed by the need to leave the camp, to escape the gloomy air that the rest of the clan seemed content to breathe. He jumped up and raced blindly across the snowy clearing, through the gorse tunnel and out into the forest. He was startled to find himself heading instinctively for the training hollow. The thought that he should be there teaching Cinderpaw was more than he could bear. As he peered to avoid it, he heard the voices of Whitestorm and Brackenpaw. The white-furred warrior must have taken Brackenpaw for training, while Fireheart had been sleeping. Had no cat stopped to grieve for Bluestar's lost life? Fireheart's throat tightened as he fought back his rage and ran on, desperate to put as much distance as possible between himself and the camp. He finally stopped beneath tall pines, his sides heaving with the effort of running through the snow. There was stillness here that calmed him. Even the birds had stopped singing. Fireheart felt as if he were the only creature in the world. He didn't know where he was going. He just padded on, letting the woods soothe him. As he walked, his mind clear. He could do nothing for Cinderpaw, and Graystripe was out of reach. But he might be able to help Yellowfang fight the green cough. He would fetch some more catnip. Fireheart turned his steps toward his old kitty pet home, weaving through the brambles in the oak woods that backed on Two Lake Place. He leaped to the top of the fence at the end of his old garden, nudging a ridge of snow into the flower bed below. It fell with a soft clump. Fireheart peered down into the garden. He could see tracks smaller than a cat's. A squirrel had been out hunting for its store of nuts. It didn't take Fireheart long to pluck a generous mouthful of leaves from the catnip bush. He wanted to take as much as he could. Its soft leaves might not survive this weather. This could be the last chance to gather it. With his mouth crammed, Fireheart stared towards the swinging flap he had used as a kit. He wondered if his Two Lake housefolk still lived there. They'd been kind to him. He had spent his first leap year cosseted in their nest, warm and safe from the cruelties of Thunderpaths and Greencough. The scent of this catnip must be going to my head, he thought sharply. He bounded up the garden and onto the fence with a single leap. He was unnerved by how much of the thought of his Two Lake home had stirred him. Did he really want the safety and predictability of a kitty pet life? Of course not. Fireheart shook the thought away. But the idea of returning to camp did not appeal to him just yet. Suddenly, he thought of Princess. Fireheart raced along the edge of the woods to the part of Two Lake Place where his sister's garden lay. When her fence was in sight, he dug down through the snow and buried the catnip beneath a layer of dead leaves to protect it from the cold. He was still panting from his run when he leaped up onto the fence and called out to Princess. Then he scrambled back down into the woods to wait for her. The snow made his paws ache with cold as he paced restlessly under an oak tree. Perhaps she was kidding, he told himself, or Shetton sighed. He had just persuaded himself he wasn't going to see her today when he heard her familiar mew. He looked up to see her standing on top of her fence. Fireheart felt a shiver of anticipation. Her belly was no longer swollen. Princess must have kidded. He breathed in her scent as she approached, and it felt warm. You've kidded, he meowed. Princess gently touched his nose with hers. Yes, she mewed softly. Did it go okay? Are the kids all right? Princess purred. It was fine. I have 5 healthy kits, she meowed, her eyes glowing with pleasure. Fireheart licked her head and she mewed. I didn't expect to see you out in this weather. I came to find some catnip, Fireheart told her. There's queen cough in the camp. Princess's eyes clouded with worry. Are many of your clan ill? 3 so far. Fireheart hesitated for a moment and meowed sadly. Our leader lost another life last night. Another life? Echoed Princess. What do you mean? I thought it was only an old she-cat's tale that cats have 9 lives. Bluestar was granted 9 lives by StarClan because she's leader of our clan, Fireheart explained. Princess looked at him in awe. Then it's true. Only for clan leaders. The rest of us only have 1 life. Like you, and like Cinderpaw. Fireheart's voice trailed away. Cinderpaw? Princess must have detected grief in his voice. Fireheart gazed into her eyes. Oh hi, welcome back, Swash. How you doing? I hope you're doing okay. We're currently on, what chapter is this? Chapter 18. 18 out of 20 for today's reading. You're doing. Fireheart gazed into her eyes, and thoughts that had been troubling him began to tumble out. My apprentice, he meowed. She was hit on the Thunderpath last night. His voice cracked as he remembered finding her broken, bleeding body. Remember back in chapter 9? Good time. She's badly hurt. She might still die, and even if she survives, she'll never become a warrior. Princess moved closer and nuzzled him. You spoke so fondly of her last time you were here, she meowed. She sounded full of fun and energy. The accident shouldn't have happened, Fireheart growled. I was supposed to meet Tiger Claw. He asked for Bluestar, but Bluestar was ill, so I offered to go instead. I had to fetch Catnip first, and Cinderpaw went in my place. Hey yo. You got the giant bow. Beautiful. Or should I say, beautiful. Princess looked alarmed, and Fireheart added quickly, I told her not to, but perhaps I'd been better mentor. She'd have listened to me, yeah. You like my cheesy joke, I know you do. I'm sure you're a good mentor, Princess tried to soothe him, but Fireheart hardly heard her. I don't know why Tiger Claw wanted Bluestar to meet him in such a dangerous place, he spat. He said there was evidence that ShadowClan had invaded our territory, but when I arrived there was no scent of them at all. Twas good cheese, yeah? So cheesy you could bite into it. Was it a trap? Princess suggested. Fireheart looked into his sister's questioning eyes, and suddenly began to wonder. Why would Tiger Claw want to hurt Cinderpaw? It was Bluestar he asked for, Princess pointed out. Fireheart's fur bristled. Could his sister be right? Tiger Claw had summoned Bluestar to the nearest part of the Thunderpath. Surely even Tiger Claw couldn't deliberately put his clan leader in danger. Fireheart shook the thought away. I don't know, he stammered. Everything's so confusing at the moment. Even Greystripe's hardly speaking to me. Why? Fireheart shrugged. It's too complicated to explain. Princess nestled next to him in the snow, pressing her soft fur against his. I just feel like such an outsider at the moment. Fireheart went on gloomily. It's not easy being different. You and me too, buddy. You and me too. Different? Princess looked puzzled. Being born a kitty pet when the other cats are all clan-born. You seem like a clan-born cat to me, mewed Princess. Fireheart blinked gratefully at her. She went on, but if you're not happy in the clan, you could always come home with me. My housefolk would look after you, I'm sure. Fireheart pictured himself living his old kitty pet life, warm, cozy, and safe. But he couldn't forget how he'd watched the woods from his two-legged garden and dreamed of being out in the forest. A breeze stirred his thick fur and carried the scent of a mouse to his nose. Fireheart shook his head firmly. Thank you, Princess, he meowed, but I belong with my clan now. I could never be happy in a two-legged nest. I would miss the sense of the forest and sleeping beneath Silverpelt, hunting my own food and sharing it with my clan. His sister's eyes gleamed. It sounds like a good life, she purred. She looked down shyly at her paws. Sometimes even I stare into the forest and wonder what it feels like to live out there. Fireheart purred and stood up. Then you understand? Princess nodded. Are you going back now? Yes. I must take the catnip to Yellowfang while it's fresh. Princess stretched her head forwards to press her muzzle into the side. Perhaps my kits will be strong enough to meet you next time you come, she mewed. Excitement tingled in Fireheart's belly. I hope so, he meowed. As he turned to leave, Princess called, Take care, brother. I don't want to lose you again. You won't, Fireheart promised. Good thinking, Fireheart, purred Whitestorm. He had seen Fireheart pad back into camp with his jaws crammed with catnip. Fireheart's mouth had been watering all the way home, although he was beginning to think he'd be happy never to see another catnip bush again. But he was happier than when he'd left the camp. His sister had safely kitted, and his head felt clear. Hi, Holy! Welcome in. The troublemaker has shown up. I know what you're gonna look for. I know what you're gonna look for. You're gonna immediately just exclamation mark fish. He was heading towards Yellowfang's den when Tigerclaw appeared at his side. More catnip, observed the great tabby, his eyes suspicious. I wondered where you'd gone. Brackenpaw can take that to Yellowfang. Brackenpaw was helping clear the way of snow nearby. Come and take this catnip to Yellowfang, Tigerclaw ordered the apprentice. Brackenpaw nodded and bounded over at once. Fireheart dropped the bunch of leaves to the ground. I wanted to visit Cinderpaw, he meowed to Tigerclaw. Later, he growled at the deputy. He waited while Brackenpaw picked up the catnip and carried it off to Yellowfang's den. Then he turned back to Fireheart. I want to know where Greystripe has been going. Fireheart felt the heat rising under his fur. Oh. I think it's time for me to drink some tea. Hang on a second. Fireheart felt the heat rising under his fur. I don't know, he replied, holding Tigerclaw's gaze. Tiger Claw stared back at him, his eyes cold and hostile. When you see him, he hissed, you can tell him he's confined to the fallen oak. Yellowfang's old den? Fireheart glanced at the tangled branches where the medicine cat had lived when she first came into the ThunderClan camp. When she was still considered a ShadowClan outcast. Swiftpaw was there, lying beside Speckletail's dark tabby kit. Cats with white cough are confined there until they are well again. But Graystripe only has a cold, Fireheart protested. A cold is bad enough. He'll stay at Fallen Oak. Tiger Claw repeated. Cats with green cough are to nest with Yellowfang. We must stop the sickness from spreading. The deputy's eyes flashed unsympathetically. Fireheart wondered if he thought of illness as a sign of weakness. It is for the good of the clan, Tiger Claw added. Yes, Tiger Claw. I'll tell Graystripe. And keep away from Bluestar, the deputy warned. But the green cough has left her, Fireheart objected. I'm aware of that, but her den still reeks of sickness. I can't afford to have any more warriors falling ill. Whitestorm tells me that RiverClan warriors had been scented even closer to the camp. He also told me that he had trained Brackenpaw today. I expect you to take charge of Brackenpaw's training tomorrow. Fireheart nodded. May I go and see Cinderpaw now? Tiger Claw looked at him. I doubt if Yellowfang has put her anywhere near the cats with green cough. Fireheart added with a flash of irritation. I won't get infected. Very well, Tiger Claw agreed and stalked away. Fireheart met Brackenpaw in the middle of the clearing. Yellowfang was very grateful for the catnip Brackenpaw mewed. Good, answered Fireheart. By the way, I'm teaching you how to catch birds tomorrow. I hope you're ready for a bit of tree climbing. Brackenpaw's whiskers twitched excitedly. Definitely. I'll meet you at the training hollow. Fireheart nodded and carried on to Yellowfang's den. He spotted Brindleface's poor kits straight away. They lay quietly in the bracken nest, coughing, with their noses and eyes streaming. Yellowfang greeted him. Thanks for the catnip. We're going to need it. Patchpelt has green cough now. She gestured with her nose towards another nest in the bracken. Inside, Fireheart could see the old Tom's matted fur. How's Cinderpaw? He asked, looking back at the medicine cat. Yellowfang sighed. She was awake earlier, but not for long. She has an infection in her leg. StarClan knows I've tried everything, but she must fight this one herself. Fireheart peered into Cinderpaw's nest. The little gray cat was twitching in her sleep. Her injured leg twisted awkwardly to one side. Fireheart shuddered, suddenly afraid she may yet lose this struggle. He turned back to Yellowfang, looking for words of encouragement. But the medicine cat sat with her, head low. She looked exhausted. Do you think Spotted Leaf would have been able to save these cats? She meowed unexpectedly, raising her head to meet his gaze. Thank you for the follow. Please keep in mind that I only do ASMR on Fridays. If you come here to my channel at any other time, you are going to have a lot of chaos, and I typically play a lot of different games as a variety streamer. If you like the chill vibe, then just show up on Friday. Fireheart shivered. He could still sense Spotted Leaf's presence here in the clearing. Yeah, the warning, yeah. I think you guys have shown up a couple of times in the other stream. I have to warn them about that. He remembered how effectively she tended to Ravenpaw's shoulder wound after the battle with RiverClan, and how carefully she'd advised him about caring for Yellowfang when the old she-cat had first come to the ThunderClan camp. Yeah, you have. You've seen the chaos. Then he looked at Yellowfang, her shoulders weighed down with experience. I'm sure there's nothing Spotted Leaf would have done differently, he told her. One of the kids cried out, and Yellowfang sprang up. As she passed, Fireheart leaned forwards and gently stroked the old cat's side with his muzzle. She twitched her shoulder gratefully at him, then filled with sadness, he turned and padded towards the fern tunnel. The white pelt of Phosphor appeared at the other end. She must be coming to see Cinderpaw. As he approached the queen, Fireheart lifted his head and looked into her blue eyes. The sorrow in them made his heart twist with pain. Phosphor, he began. The queen stopped. I'm sorry, Fireheart trembled as he spoke. Phosphor looked confused. What for? I should have been able to stop Cinderpaw from going to the Thunderpath. Phosphor gazed at him, but her expression gave away nothing except her sadness. I don't blame you, Fireheart, she murmured. Then she lowered her head and carried on towards her kid. Graystripe was back, munching a roll beside the nettle clump. Fireheart padded over to him. Tigerclaw says you've got to move to the fallen oak. With the white cough cats, he meowed, with a prickle of resentment. He remembered how the deputy had questioned him about his friend. That won't be necessary, replied Graystripe cheerfully. I'm better now. Yellowfang gave me the all-clear this morning. Fireheart looked closely at Graystripe. His eyes were certainly bright again, and his runny nose was dried to an unappealing crust. At any other time, Fireheart would have teased him about how much he looked like Running Nose. The Shadow Clan medicine cat. Now, he spat crossly. Tigerclaw has noticed your disappearances. You should be more careful. Why can't you stay away from Silverstream, at least for now? Graystripe stopped chewing and stared angrily back at Fireheart. And why can't you mind your own business? Fireheart closed his eyes and snorted with frustration. Would he ever get through to his friend? Then he wondered if he even cared anymore. After all, Graystripe hadn't asked about Cinderpaw. Fireheart's stomach growled to tell him he was hungry. He might as well eat. He took a sparrow from the pile of fresh kill and carried it away to a deserted corner of the camp to eat alone. As he settled down, he thought of Princess, far away in Teal'c Place, with her newborn kids. Lonely and anxious, Fireheart stared across the camp and longed to see her again. That's the end of chapter 18. So, the thing is, Fireheart has also gone to meet his sister on occasion, but he's still putting his clan first above his own emotional needs. Meanwhile, Graystripe is completely blinded by love. Oh man, SiriBot just banned a spam bot. Fuck you, spam bot. Get banned. Good job, SiriBot. Chapter 19. In the following days, Fireheart struggled against the urge to visit his sister. Yeah, get banned, nerd. Get banned, bot. We don't want you here. Get the fuck out. His yearning to be with his kitty pet kin was beginning to make him feel uncomfortable. He kept himself busy hunting in the snowy forests. He replenishing the camp store. He had a successful hunt this afternoon, returning to camp with 2 mice and a chaffinch as the sun dipped behind the trees. He buried the mice in the snow store and took the chaffinch for his own supper. As he finished his meal, he noticed Whitestorm padding towards him. "I want you to take Sandpaw out on a dawn patrol." The great white warrior meowed. "ShadowClan has been scented as close as the owl tree." "ShadowClan?" Fireheart echoed in alarm. Perhaps Tigerclaw really had found evidence in the invasion after all. "I was planning to take Brackenpaw out again tomorrow." "Isn't Graystripe better now?" asked Whitestorm. "He can take Brackenpaw." Of course, thought Fireheart. Perhaps training his apprentice would keep Graystripe away from Silverstream. For once. But that meant he would have to go on patrol with Sandpaw. And Fireheart couldn't help thinking of the furious look Sandpaw had given him when he'd interrupted her fight with RiverClan warrior beside the gorge. "Just me and Sandpaw?" he asked. Whitestorm looked at him in surprise. "Sandpaw's almost a warrior, and you can take care of yourself," he replied. There is going to be an ad in 2.5 minutes. If you have not already, please turn down your volume so you are not spooked. Whitestorm had misunderstood Fireheart's concern. He wasn't afraid of being attacked by enemy cats. He was afraid that if Sandpaw hated him as much as Dustpaw did. But Fireheart didn't correct him. "Does Sandpaw know?" "You can tell her," meowed Whitestorm. Fireheart's ear twitched. He didn't think Sandpaw would be too thrilled by the idea of patrolling with him, but he didn't argue. Whitestorm nodded briefly and bounded away towards the warrior's den. Fireheart sighed and padded over to where Sandpaw was sitting with the other apprentices. "Sandpaw," Fireheart shifted uneasily. "Whitestorm wants you to patrol with me at dawn tomorrow." He waited for his resentful hiss, but Sandpaw merely looked up at him and meowed. "Fine." Even Dustpaw looked surprised. Okay," echoed Fireheart, taken aback. "Meet you at sunrise, then." "Sunrise," agreed Sandpaw. Fireheart decided to share the good news about Sandpaw's lack of hostility with Graystripe. It might be a chance for them to start talking to each other again. Graystripe was sharing tongues with Runningwind by the clump of nettles. "Hi, Fireheart," Runningwind meowed as Fireheart approached. "Hi." Fireheart looked expectantly at Graystripe, but Graystripe had turned his head away and was staring at the boundary wall. Fireheart's heart sank. He dropped his head and turned back towards his nest. He couldn't wait to be out on patrol tomorrow and away from the camp. The sky glowed palest pink above Fireheart's head as he pushed away outside of the den the next morning. Sandpaw was waiting for him outside the gorse tunnel. Hi," Fireheart meowed, feeling a bit awkward. "Hi," Sandpaw answered quickly. Fireheart sat down. "Let's wait for the night patrol to get back," he suggested. They sat in silence until they heard a familiar rustle of bushes, heralding the return of Whitestorm, Longtail, and Mousefur. The ads should have started by now, so I'm going to take a quick break so I can stretch. BRB. Also, Holy, I refunded those. The reason why I refunded those is actually because that doesn't work on this model. Thank you, thank you. I guess you escaped the ads again, huh? You keep getting like super lucky. I don't know how you keep escaping the ads. But it does say it's still currently in progress. Yeah. It's gotta be like where you live, maybe. Alright, let's continue reading. Any sign of ShadowClan? Fireheart asked. Oh. Normal bow, okay. We definitely picked up some ShadowClan scents, answered Whitestorm grimly. It's strange, meowed Mousefur, frowning. It's always the same group of scents. ShadowClan must have been sending the same warriors each time. And the headpiece, yep. Headpiece physics. You're just trying to not give me any time to read. You baka. You want me to time you out now? Fine. Oh, hang on. You know what? You can have 5 minutes of silence. There you go. 5 minutes of silence for Holy. He would deem baka, which is a timeout, a self timeout, and I get to determine the amount of length. So if you're being a real douche canoosh and you know, you grab that, maybe you get timed out for an hour, who knows. I could time you out for like 7 days. I've been pretty nice to Holy. I think the most I've ever timed him out was like 500 seconds. Your favorite kind of canoe, douche canoe. You two had better check out the RiverClan border, suggested Whitestorm. We didn't get a chance to patrol there. Be careful, and remember, you don't want to start a fight. You're just looking for signs if they've been hunting on our land again. Yes, Whitestorm meowed Fireheart. Sandpaw nodded respectfully. Fireheart led the way. We start at 4 trees and work our way along the border to tall pines. He meowed as they climbed out of their camp ravine. Sounds good, replied Sandpaw. I've never seen 4 trees in the snow. Fireheart listened for sarcasm in her voice, but she seemed to be sincere. They reached the top of the ravine. Which way now? Fireheart decided to test her. Do you think I don't know the way to 4 trees? Sandpaw protested. Fireheart began to regret acting like a mentor until he noticed a good-humored gleam in her eyes. She charged away through the woods without another word, and Fireheart pelted after her. So there's actually a little bit of a backstory here, a couple chapters back, about like 6-7 chapters ago. So about 2 streams ago. He actually saved this specific cat from falling over the ridge when one of RiverClan cats actually fell over into the ridge and got swept away by the river and had regretfully died. So I think that instead of being angry at him because in the fight they were angry at him because, well, they were getting in the way and, warriors don't like to be intervened with. But they were on the edge of the ravine, and if he did not interfere, she would have fallen over into the ravine. So I think that instead that they just had not had a chance to talk, and that they probably actually respect him as a warrior now, even though he's a kitty pet. There is some discrimination against him still for being a kitty pet, and I think that people are starting to actually become on his side rather than just neutral. And that's from the previous chapter to now, and you can probably now understand if you weren't here before. It felt good to be running through the woods with another cat again. He had to admit Sandpaw was fast. She was still 2 fox lengths ahead when she leaped over the trunk of a fallen tree and disappeared. Fireheart followed, taking the tree in a single bound. As he landed on the other side, something hit him from behind. He skidded in the snow, rolled over, and sprang to his paws. Sandpaw faced him, her whiskers twitching. Surprise! Fireheart hissed playfully and leaped on top of her. He was impressed by Sandpaw's strength, but he had the advantage of size. When he finally held her down in the snow, she protested. "Get off, you great lump." Okay, meowed Fireheart, letting go of her. "But you asked for it." Sandpaw sat up, her orange coat dusted with snow. "You look like you've been caught in a snowstorm," she meowed. "So do you." They both shook the flakes from their fur. "Come on," Fireheart meowed. "You'd better get a move on." They raced side by side as far as 4 trees. By the time they reached the top of the slope that overlooked the valley, the sky was milky blue. Pale sunlight lit up the snowy hollow. The 4 bare oaks stood below them, glittering with frost. Sandpaw stared down, her eyes wide. Fireheart waited, touched by her enthusiasm, until she turned to leave. "I didn't know the snow would make everything so different," she mewed as they began to follow the RiverClan border towards the river. Fireheart nodded in agreement. Their pace was slower as they traveled in silence along the line of the scent markers, alert for any fresh smells of RiverClan this side of the border. Fireheart paused every few trees to leave a new ThunderClan scent mark. Suddenly, Sandpaw stopped dead. "Fancy a little fresh kill?" she whispered. Fireheart nodded. The apprentice dropped into a hunting crouch and pulled herself forwards through the snow, one slow paw step after another. Fireheart followed her gaze and saw a young rabbit hopping underneath the brambles. With a quick hiss, Sandpaw pounced, diving into the brambles and pinning the rabbit down with a strong forepaw. In one swift movement, she pulled it towards herself to finish it off. Fireheart bounded over. "Great catch, Sandpaw." Sandpaw looked pleased. She dropped the warm, fresh kill to the ground. "Share?" "Thanks. That's one of the best things about patrols," remarked Sandpaw between mouthfuls. "What?" Fireheart asked. "You can eat what you catch instead of having to take it back to the clan," Sandpaw replied. "I don't know how many hunting missions I've nearly starved on." Fireheart purred with amusement. They set off again, skirting Sunning Rocks to follow the trail into the woods again. Close to the RiverClan border, as they reached the top of the bracken-covered slope above the river. Oh, that page turn is really crisp. Fireheart sent a silent prayer to StarClan that they wouldn't find Graystripe here. Yeah, it was crisp. "Look," meowed Sandpaw suddenly. Her body stiffened with excitement. "The river, it's frozen." Fireheart's heart lurched as he remembered Cinderpaw saying the same words before Graystripe's accident. "We're not going down to look," he meowed firmly. "We don't have to. You can see from here. Let's get back and tell the clan." "Why?" Fireheart couldn't understand Sandpaw's excitement. "A patrol of our warriors could cross the river now," Sandpaw meowed. "We can invade RiverClan's territory and steal back some of the prey they've taken from us." Fireheart felt a cold chill ripple the fur on his spine. What would Graystripe think about that? And could Fireheart bring himself to go into battle against the starving River Clan? Sandpaw circled him impatiently. Are you coming? Yes, replied Fireheart heavily. He leaped after Sandpaw as she raced off into the woods back to camp. Sandpaw tore through the gorse tunnel just ahead of Fireheart. Tigerclaw glanced up as they skidded to a halt in the clearing. Ayo? Fireheart heard a noise behind him. Graystripe was padding through the camp entrance with Brackenpaw. A call sounded from below the high rock. Fireheart, Sandpaw, how is your patrol? Oh, yeah, this. I like how it has some physics. Fireheart felt a flood of relief when he saw Bluestar looking at her normal self, sitting with the... Ah, man. I tumbled on it that time. Let me drink some tea. You didn't hear anything? What do you... Are you talking about me? Hang on. Did you hear it that time? That time it was coffee. Oh yeah, I actually have a condition where I have a tight esophagus, so my gulps are just naturally loud. And that includes just normal swallowing. So if I'm like just drinking some water, it's like gulp, gulp, gulp. When I'm gulping, like it's like gulp, gulp, gulp. Like a lot louder. Like that one. Like I did it purposely that time. Yeah, the tight esophagus. I have the inability to burp. So every time someone burps on like a stream or like in my party, I'm like, that's illegal. That's not a thing. You can't do that. That's physically impossible. Fireheart felt a flood of relief when he saw Bluestar looking her normal self, sitting with her chin high and her tail tucked over her forepaws. My gulps are loud too. When I drink in Discord, everyone is like, oh my god, the gulps. Have you ever considered that you might also have like a slightly tight esophagus? Do you have any problems releasing air through the, mouth portion of your body? Because I physically cannot burp at all. It's like extremely rare. The tension on your, yeah. That's why I have to take normal breaks, because when I'm talking and talking and talking, I have a strain on my vocal cords because of the tight esophagus, which then pulls on my tendons in my neck, and it starts getting really stiff, and that's when I have to drink some tea. And that's also when I start to fumble my words, is because like I'm essentially trying to force myself to talk. And that's why typically when the ad breaks start, I try to get up, stretch, drink tea, use the restroom, so I can just continue reading. You don't have any issue burping? Yeah, mine's like extreme. And the only way that you can actually fix the condition is pretty interesting. So the only way to fix the condition is to actually to get like shots, essentially. You know, the ones that make your face go stiff. Yeah, you have to get Botox to fix the issue, which I'm not gonna do that. That's super risky. Oh, and when they do that, it's permanent. Not only that, but my voice, if like the tightness wasn't here, would probably be a lot lower. Neck needles, no thanks. Exactly, neck needles, no. That's actually the most dangerous spot to have the Botox needles due to the paralysis of them. And I do not want to risk not having a voice for the rest of my life just because I have the incapability of burping. Sandpaw bounded over to the high rock. The river's frozen, she burst out. We should cross it easily now. Bluestar gazed thoughtfully at the apprentice. Fireheart flinched when she saw the ThunderClan leader's eyes gleam. Thank you, Sandpaw, she meowed. Yeah, it's a super bad trade-off if it goes wrong. I mean, I know why some people do it. Because of a certain G-U-L-K, you know. And I also purposely misspelled that. Just rewind the L and the U. Fireheart leaned over and murmured into Sandpaw's ear. Come on, let's tell the others. He guessed Bluestar would want to discuss the frozen river with their senior warriors. You think the tight esophagus would be a plus in that area? No. I actually have a very bad gag reflex. Now everyone that's listening in is probably like, what? Well. Sandpaw glanced at him, understanding, and followed him back to the center of the clearing. This has been such a great day, she meowed. Fireheart just nodded and glanced anxiously at Graystripe. You two look like you had fun. Dustpaw had emerged from the apprentice's den. Drowned another RiverClan cat? He sneered at Fireheart. Dustpaw looked at Sandpaw expectantly. Fireheart guessed he was waiting for her to agree with him, like she used to, but Sandpaw wasn't listening. Fireheart felt a small prickle of satisfaction at the irritated look on Dustpaw's face as she meowed breathlessly. We found out that the river's frozen. I think Bluestar is planning to raid on the RiverClan. At that moment, the leader's call sounded from the high rock, and the clan began to gather in the clearing. The sun had reached its high point, which in Leafbearer meant that it was barely above the treetops. Sandpaw and Fireheart have brought good news. The river is frozen over, Bluestar announced. We will take this opportunity to make a raid on RiverClan's hunting grounds, to send the message that they must stop stealing our prey. Our warriors will track down one of their patrols and give them a warning that they're remembered for a long time. Fireheart winced as he remembered what Silverstream had told him about her starving clan. Around him, the other cats raised their voices in eager yowls. Fireheart had not heard the clan this excited for many moons. Tigerclaw, Bluestar called above the din. Are our warriors fit enough for the raid on RiverClan? Tigerclaw nodded. Excellent. Bluestar lifted her tail, and we shall leave at sunset. The clan yowled with delight. Fireheart's paws prickled. Was Bluestar going too? Surely she wouldn't risk her last life on a border raid. Fireheart looked over his shoulder at Graystripe. He was staring up at the high rock, the tip of his tail twitching nervously. As the yells died away, Graystripe called out, "Feels warmer today. A thaw would make the ice too dangerous to cross." Fireheart held his breath as the other cats turned to look curiously at Graystripe. Tigerclaw stared down at Graystripe, his amber eyes puzzled. "You're not usually reluctant to fight," Dark Warrior meowed slowly. Darkstripe craned his neck and added, "Yes, Graystripe, you're not afraid of those River Clan flea bags, are you?" Graystripe fidgeted uncomfortably as the clan waited for an answer. "Looks like he's scared," hissed Dustpaw from Sandpaw's side. Fireheart's tail flicked angrily, but he managed to keep his voice light as he called, "Yes, of getting his paws wet. Graystripe's fallen through the ice once this leaf bear. He's not keen to do it again." The tension in the clan dissolved into amused purrs. Graystripe looked down at the ground, his ears flat. Only Tigerclaw kept his suspicious frown. Bluestar waited until the murmurings had died away. "I must discuss the raid with my senior warriors." She leaped down from the high rock, landing so lightly that it was hard to believe that she'd been fighting for her lives just days ago. Tigerclaw, Whitestorm, and Willowpelt followed her to her den, and the rest of the clan broke away into groups to discuss the proposed attack. "I suppose you expect me to thank you for embarrassing me." Fireheart heard Graystripe's angry hiss in his ear. "Not at all," he snapped. "But you could at least be grateful I'm still covering up for you." He bounded away to the edge of the clearing, his fur bristling with fury. Sandpaw ran over to join him. "It's about time we showed those River Clan cats that they can't hunt in our territory whenever they like." She meowed, her eyes shining. "Yes, you noticed the ear swap. Congratulations." "Yes, I suppose so," Fireheart answered absently. He couldn't take his eyes off Graystripe. Was he imagining it, or was the Grey Warrior edging further and further towards the nursery? Was Graystripe planning on slipping away to warn Silverstream? Fireheart began to pad towards the nursery. Graystripe glared at Fireheart as he approached. But before either warrior could speak, Bluestar's call sounded once more from the high rock. Fireheart stopped where he was, but didn't take his eyes off Graystripe. "Willowpelt agrees with young Graystripe," Bluestar declared. "A thaw is on the way." Graystripe lifted his chin and flashed a defiant look at Fireheart. But Fireheart didn't care. Bluestar was going to call off the raid. Now, Graystripe wouldn't have to choose between his clan and Silverstream. And Fireheart wouldn't have to join a raiding party against a clan he knew that was already suffering. But Bluestar hadn't finished. "So we will attack at once." Fireheart glanced sideways. Graystripe's look of triumph had turned to one of sheer horror. Bluestar continued, "We'll leave a patrol of warriors here to guard the camp. But we have to remember the possible threat from Shadow Clan. 5 warriors will make the raid. I will remain here." There is a ad starting in 3 minutes. Please lower your volume if you have not already. Thank you. Good, thought Fireheart. She wasn't planning to risk her final life after all. Tigerclaw will lead the raiding party. Darkstripe, Willowpelt, and Longtail would go with him. That leaves one more place. Can I go? Fireheart burst out. Even though his heart felt heavy at the thought of attacking hungry Ruby Clan cats, it meant that Graystripe wouldn't have to make a choice. Thank you, Fireheart. You may join the patrol. Bluestar was clearly pleased by her former apprentice's eagerness. Tigerclaw didn't look so happy. He narrowed his eyes at Fireheart, gazing at him with undisguised suspicion. There's no time to lose, Bluestar yelled. I can smell the warm winds myself. Tigerclaw will brief you as you travel. Go now. Fingers crossed that you don't get ads. Good luck. Darkstripe, Longtail, and Willowcoat sped after Tigerclaw. Fireheart followed them as they thundered through the gorse tunnel and headed up the ravine towards Riverclan territory. They charged past Sounding Rocks and reached the enemy border as the low leaf-bare sun began to dip towards the forest. Fireheart sniffed the air. Graystripe and Willowcoat had been right. You could smell warmer winds, and rain clouds were already pushing in over the treetops. As they raced down the slope toward the river, Fireheart felt a deep sense of disquiet. Silverstream's desperate story rang in his ears, and he fought to push away his feelings of sympathy. The ThunderClan warriors emerged from the bracken and skidded to a stop at the edge of the river. The sight that greeted them made Fireheart weak with relief. The shining sheet of ice that Fireheart had seen earlier with Sandpaw had broken up into a rushing flow of cold, black water. That is the end of chapter 19. I am going to wait to start on chapter 20 after the ads are done. So I'm going to take this ad break in full and actually take a proper break this time. So I am going to see you guys after the ads. BRB. let's see if we can finish chapter 20 before another ad hits, huh? Don't want to be at like the very end and then like have ads. That would be so annoying. Chapter 20. Tigerclaw turned to his warriors, his pale eyes flashing with frustration. Good job, no ads for you. We'll have to wait, he snarled. The patrol turned and began to trudge home. Fireheart sent up a wordless prayer to thank StarClan, but there was a bitter taste in his throat. Now he would never know if he could have gone through with the raid. There's only Graystripe he didn't trust. He didn't even trust himself. Fireheart kept silent all the way home. Every now and then he saw Tigerclaw flash a glance at him over his massive brown shoulder. It was a slow journey. The light of the short leaf-bare day was fading when they finally reached the top of the ravine. Fireheart waited for the other warriors to pick their way down first. By the time he padded through the coarse tunnel, Tigerclaw was already explaining to the disappointed clan that the river had thawed. Fireheart skirted the edge of the clearing, looking for Graystripe. He needed to know if his friend had slipped out of the camp. Instinctively, he headed for the nursery. As he was approached the tangle of moss and brambles, he heard a familiar meow. Fireheart! Fireheart felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps Graystripe was actually grateful he offered to take the final place in the raiding party. He followed his friend's voice into the shadows behind the nursery. Fireheart mewed quietly into the gloom, but he couldn't see Graystripe anywhere. Suddenly, something crashed into his side with a mighty thump. Fireheart spun around, all his senses alert. He saw Graystripe with his hackles raised, silhouetted in the dimness. Graystripe lunged again. Fireheart ducked just in time as Graystripe swung a wide gray paw at his ear. "What are you doing?" Fireheart spluttered. Graystripe flattened his ears and hissed. "You didn't trust me. You thought I would betray ThunderClan." He aimed another swipe. This one caught the tip of Fireheart's ear. Pain and fury shot through him. "I just wanted to save you from having to make a choice," he spat. "Although it's true that I'm not sure where your loyalties lie right now." Graystripe flew at him and knocked him backwards. The two cats tussled, claws unsheathed. "I make my own choices," Graystripe snarled. Fireheart struggled free and leaped onto Graystripe's back. "I was trying to protect you." "I don't need protecting." Blinded by anger, Fireheart dug his claws into Graystripe's pelt, but Graystripe flipped Fireheart over and together they rolled out from behind the nursery. The cats in the clearing sprang out of the way as the two young warriors bundled into them. Fireheart yowled with a rage as Graystripe bit at his foreleg. His thrust upwards with a claw and raked Graystripe above his eye. Graystripe retaliated. Clearly I need a tea now. He thrust upwards with a claw and raked Graystripe above his eye. Graystripe retaliated by lunging downward and sinking his teeth into Fireheart's hind leg. "Stop this at once!" Bluestar's stern yowl made Fireheart and Graystripe freeze. Fireheart released his grip on Graystripe and shuffled painfully sideways. Graystripe backed away, his fur bristling. Out of the corner of his eye, Fireheart saw Tigerclaw sneering with barely suppressed delight, curling his lip back to reveal his teeth. "Fireheart, I want to see you in my den, now." Bluestar growled, her blue eyes flashing fire. "Graystripe, go to your nest and stay there." The rest of the clan melted away into the shadows. Fireheart limped after Bluestar to her den. He kept his eyes eyes fixed on the ground, feeling worn out and confused. Bluestar sat down on the sandy floor and stared at Fireheart in disbelief for a moment. Then she meowed angrily. What was that all about? Fireheart shook his head. As furious as he was, he could not reveal his friend's secret. Bluestar closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I realize feelings are running high in the camp right now, but I never expected to see you and Graystripe fighting. Are you hurt? Fireheart could feel his ear and hind leg stinging, but he shrugged and murmured, "No." Are you going to tell me what this is about? Fireheart met her gaze as steadily as he could. Bluestar, I'm sorry, I can't explain. At least that much is true, he thought. Very well, meowed Bluestar at last. You two can sort it out on your own. The clan is facing a difficult time, and I won't tolerate this sort of fighting. Do you understand? Yes, Bluestar, Fireheart answered. May I go? Bluestar nodded, and Fireheart turned to slunk out of her den. He knew he had let his old mentor down, but there was no way he could confide in her. Last time he'd done that, about Ravenpaw's accusation against Tigerclaw, she hadn't believed him. And if she believed him this time, he'd be betraying his best friend. Feeling sick with worry, Fireheart crept up across the clearing and slipped inside the warrior's den. He settled into his nest beside Graystripe and curled himself into a tight ball. He lay there, unmoving, aware of Graystripe's tense body beside his, until sleep finally overcame him. Fireheart awoke early the next morning. The sun hadn't risen, and the clearing was empty as he padded across Yellowfang's den. He wanted to see Cinderpaw. Yellowfang was asleep, curled beside Brindleface's sick kids. They squirmed quietly in their nest, their eyes closed. Yellowfang was snoring loudly. Fireheart didn't want to wake her, so he crept over to Cinderpaw's nest and peered in. The little gray cat was asleep too. The blood had been washed away from her fur. Fireheart wondered whether she had cleaned it herself or whether Yellowfang had washed it off. Fireheart crouched beside Cinderpaw and watched her breathe. There was something calming about the way her sides rose and fell. She seemed much more peaceful than when he last visited. He stayed with her until the dawn light filtered through the ferns, and he heard the clan begin to stir. Fireheart got to his paws. He leaned into Cinderpaw's nest and touched her side softly with his nose. As he turned to leave, Yellowfang stretched and opened her eyes. Fire? I came to see Cinderpaw, he whispered. She's doing well, meowed Yellowfang, pushing herself up. Fireheart's eyes clouded with relief. Thank you, Yellowfang. When he reached the clearing, Tigerclaw was addressing a group of warriors and apprentices. He spotted Fireheart straight away. Nice of you to show up, he growled. Graystripe just joined us too. He's been having a word with Bluestar. Fireheart glanced at his friend, but Graystripe was staring at the ground. Other warriors watched in silence as Fireheart hurried over and sat down beside Sandpaw. During this thaw, the woods would be alive with prey. Tigerclaw meowed. They'll be hungry after sheltering up in their burrows. This would be a good chance to catch as much as we can. But there's still fresh kill in the snow store, Despaw moved. It'll be crow fruit soon, Tigerclaw told him. We need to take every opportunity to hunt. As leaf bear goes on, the prey will start to disappear, and what stays around will be too thin. The warriors nodded in agreement. Longtail, Tigerclaw turned his eyes on the pale tabby warrior. I want you to organize the hunting parties. Longtail nodded, and Tigerclaw got up and padded towards Blue Star's den. As Fireheart watched him disappear through the lichen, he couldn't help wondering if the leader and deputy would discuss his fight with Graystripe. Longtail's voice summoned him away from his thoughts. Fireheart, you and Sandpaw can join Mousefur. Graystripe can hunt with Whitestorm and Brackenpaw. It's probably best if I don't put you two in the same group. Amused purrs rippled through the group, but Fireheart narrowed his eyes angrily. He conformed himself by studying the nick he had left in the pale Tabby's ear when Longtail had taunted him on his first day in the camp. Good fight last night, Mousefur rasped beside him, her eyes gleaming with mischief. I almost made up for missing out on the battle. Fireheart scowled as Despot added, Yeah, nice moves, Fireheart, for a kitty pet. Fireheart gritted his teeth and looked at the ground, sheathing and unsheathing his claws. The two groups left the camp together. As the hunters filed up the trail out of the ravine, Fireheart looked at the sky. The rain clouds he had seen rolling in last night had covered the sun, and the snow under Paw was turning to slush. Mousefur led Sandpaw and Fireheart through the tall pines. I'll take Sandpaw with me, the brown warrior told Fireheart. You can hunt alone. Meet us back at camp at Sunhigh. Fireheart couldn't help feeling relieved at the thought of being alone. He stalked away through the trees, still hardly able to believe that he and Graystripe had fought so bitterly. Fireheart felt lost and alone without his old friend. Though he barely recognized him anymore, he wondered if they could be ever friends again. It wasn't until he felt the softness of the leaves beneath his paws that Fireheart realized he'd wandered all the way to the oak woods that backed onto the Two-Leg place. Instantly, he thought of Princess, and wondered if his paws had carried him to the Two-Leg nest for a reason. Fireheart made straight for her fence and called softly down into the garden. Then he jumped back into the woods and waited in the undergrowth for his sister to come looking. He didn't have to wait long before there was a scrambling noise on the fence, and he smelled her distinctive scent. Fireheart was about to leap out to meet her when he smelled a second unfamiliar scent. The bracken rustled, and Princess appeared. In her mouth, she carried a tiny white kit. As Fireheart pushed his way out to meet her, she mewed a warm greeting through the bundle of fur in her teeth. The kit was very small. Fireheart guessed it would not be weaned for another moon. Princess cleared away some slush with her paw and laid it gently down on the leaves. Then she sat down and wrapped her thick tail around it. Fireheart was overwhelmed with emotion. This was his own kin, kitty pet born like he had been. He walked quietly over to Princess, nuzzled a greeting, then bent down and sniffed the kit. Thicktail, yeah, Thicktail. It smelled of warmth and milk, strange but somehow familiar. Fireheart gave it a tender lick on the head, and it mewed, opening its pink mouth to reveal tiny white teeth. Princess looked at Fireheart, her eyes shining. I have brought him for you, Fireheart, she meowed softly. I want you to take him back with you to your clan so that he can be your new apprentice. That is the end of chapter 20, and what a twist. Princess just said, here, have one of my kits. Have at it. So, what I think is going to happen, and I have not read this in a very, very long time, so I can't remember any of the details. What I think is going to happen is that Cinderpaw might become the new medicine cat. Because, well, can't really become a mom or anything, not strong enough for that. So the only thing that's left is medicine cat. And then I wonder how it's gonna be taken when Princess's kit ends up becoming a warrior. And it's supposed to be an entire moon. An entire moon before the kit can actually go to the clan. So Princess is trusting her brother quite a lot here. Probably wants the kit to have something she never had, because she had also fantasized about being in the forest. Moon ale. Anyway, that was the last chapter for today's stream. And so we will be continuing next Friday for the ASMR on chapter 21 through 25. And I suppose we will see the reaction of the clan and possibly what happens between River Clan and the Thunder Clan. We might see Shadow Clan appear, who knows? We have not heard anything of Wind Clan since we rescued them. But, wow, cliffhanger. Anyway, let me try to see if I can find someone to raid. Let's see, who can we raid? Who's currently doing ASMR on my list? Let's see. Oh, there's someone that I raided before because they raided me because they like this series. Maybe I should raid them again. Who else is doing ASMR? Oh, just them then. Okay, so raid another Kitsune AO. Let me open up that tab and get ready for that. And go ahead and do that. There we go. Okay. So thank you guys for showing up. I hope you enjoyed this stream. If you would like to listen to the ASMR book reading again, please come back on next Friday. Other than that, if you show up to the regular streams, they are very chaotic, and you might hear screeching and yelling and cursing, and, you know, chaotic chaos, yeah. But I will go ahead and see you guys later, alright? Narisuki.